world has changed. America has changed. If something were to happen tomorrow, how self-sufficient would you be? Could you grow your own food? Could you sustain your own livestock? Could you survive? This is the We Grow Our Show with Nick and Don. Nick and Don talk about everything from politics to planting. They cover techniques, methods, and tips on how to not only survive, but thrive. Visit the website at WeGrowOurs.com. Lock and load. This is the We Grow Our Show. Get your grow on.
Welcome back to the We Grow Our Show. Oh, that's really professional. Don hits his funny bone right as we start recording. So, A for effort.
So welcome to the We Grow Our Show.
Yeah, lock and load. Good thing he wasn't carrying a pistol.
So we got Chris Fry on today, our resident solar expert.
Yes, that's right. Chris is, he's been in the solar industry for about 14 years and seen a lot of growth in that, a lot of technological advances, and I'm really excited to have him on today.
Yeah, not only on, he's in studio today.
That's right, our first in-studio guest.
Absolutely. So
the first one to the Situation Room.
Yeah, we're calling our studio the Situation Room now, apparently.
It's just something stupid I thought of.
That's shocking. So,
oh, yeah.
Solar is fascinating to me. I know nothing about it, and Chris is going to help us answer those questions that people really don't know what to ask.
That's right. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of companies out there that used to be roofers last year, and now they're solar experts today.
Right. He is not one of those people.
That's right. This guy is a chemical engineer and got out of that business a few years back and got into solar, and instead of cleaning up the environment, he's actually preventing the environment from being dirty, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. So
instead of retribution, it's prevention.
And you know, once we talk to Chris here, we're going to find out a little bit about innovation in the solar industry, and this is a guy that I see as an innovator. He isn't just a guy out there putting solar panels on somebody's home and trying to make a buck from it. He seems to care about the industry, and he seems to be an innovator in the industry. So we're going to talk a little bit about his other products to do with solar, where he thinks that industry is going as well.
That's right. In fact, at Hostile Hair, he is actually helping me do an off-grid rabbitry.
The Rabbinet.
The Rabbinet, yeah. I gotta change the name, I know.
I love it. I think it's a wonderful name.
I like it too, if I could just say the damn thing.
The Rabbinet.
Rabbinet. It sounds like a dang frog on acid. Rabbinet.
And he is going to be out at the Prepper Fest with you. I think,
yes.
You were talking about giving away last episode.
He might not be in my booth. Okay. But he is,
he's gonna be there.
He's gonna be there. He's supplying us with a single panel generator unit that'll be good for charging up different handheld devices and running small electronics.
Ham radios, cell phones, that's iPads,
right. Yep. Fire starters.
Aquaponic systems.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, let's get to that. And, yeah, perfect. Let's get to Chris and learn all about solar. Our first in-studio guest. Welcome, Chris. All right, so today we are lucky enough to have an in-studio guest.
Yes, first ever. Today with us, we've got the CEO of Alternative Energy Incorporated, Mr. Chris Fry. Chris Fry, how are you?
Very well, and thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for coming all the way down here and visiting us, too, in our little studio here.
The Situation Room.
That's right. So, Chris, you are into solar.
Yes. Yeah, about 14 years ago now, I was doing a lot of toxic cleanups, actually both in Arizona, California, throughout the Southwest, and thought there must be a better way to make a living. And so we bought a very small solar company around 2000, 2001 and grew it into what we have today.
So toxic cleanups as in toxic chemical spills or CSI cleanup type things?
It was mostly toxic. I have a degree in chemical engineering, and so it was kind of a logical place for me to go. And spent, a lot of great years doing it. And it was a good business. It was more of a kind of cleaning up the environment. And we decided that we'd really like to do something more sustaining, the environment. And from a business standpoint, a lot of the projects were being cleaned up.
And that's how you made that kind of leap into solar.
Yes.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, I know I've got a ton of questions today about solar because I see everything on the news about it. I've had a lot of people ask us about solar. I want to put my house solar, and I've seen some of the price tags that come along with this. And so we kind of brought you in for some advice on what it means to go solar, what you can do with solar, kind of the realities of solar. And I know, Nick, you've got questions.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've met with a few different solar energy contractors, and each one of them's got a little bit more spin than the others on certain things. And honestly, if somebody's trying to sell me something, I'd rather get the fundamentals known before I listen to a salesman on what I can and cannot do. And that's basically what we'll start with is, there are scammers out there. So give us some ideas of what we should look out for when we're looking to purchase a solar system or solar system like ours, all the planets. No, just kidding. Rolling around the sun. No, but a system for your house to go solar. What's some advice you could give us?
Well, I think you want to start with energy efficiency before solar, and I'll give you a recent example. And it's an exaggerated example. It's a commercial client, but the principles are the same. We did an energy audit before we talked to them seriously about solar. We found that if they spent about $25,000 in energy efficiency measures, we could reduce the cost of their solar purchase by $190,000.
Wow.
Or to summarize it, it's much more cost effective to save energy than to create energy. That seems very fundamental and very kind of a no-brainer, but it's a principle that I think is ignored by the vast majority of solar companies. Why? It could be because they want to sell you as big a system as they possibly can if they can stuff a few more panels. But also it means cross-training because it's pretty easy to sell solar. You look at a bill for the last year, you just key it in, and nowadays programs tell you what to quote basically. With an energy audit, it actually takes some thought and some time and preferably some technical training. But the idea is I think even for a home, go through and see where you can save first and then consider solar and keep in mind the differences. You might have had to start with just for easy math, a $20,000 system. You do some energy efficiency, and now you might be able to do an $18,000 system. And that energy efficiency might have been as easy as switching out to LED lights or something like that. So I think that's the first principle that's ignored is look for ways to save energy, whether it's your home or place of business, and then go ahead and size solar.
So you do a lot of commercial solar. Now you work also in residential, correct?
We do. We have a strong book of residential, both Arizona, California, and other spots throughout the country. We like to keep a good, robust book of residential clients. We do shy away from the zero down options, so we're mostly dealing with homeowners that can simply pay out of pocket for solar. Mostly because we just don't think the zero downs are good for the homeowner. They're great for the investors. They're really good for the solar companies. They're not so good for the homeowners because generally speaking, over time, it's going to save the homeowners maybe 10 to 20% on their electric bill. Whereas if they purchase it, you're going to have a return on investment of maybe 7 years or so, free energy thereafter, and a much larger savings. You're saving virtually, after a while, 100% on your energy.
And see, that's actually very interesting because we'll liken it onto the car industry.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these cars that they're selling now are actually costing them money when they roll off the lot right away. And what they do is over the life of the car, over the life of the loan, they're actually, that $18,000 that you bought it for turned into $36,000 to $50,000. Mm-hmm. They're able to play with the interest rates, and they're paying you, when you pay your payment, the first few payments are almost 100% interest, and there's a small amounts taken off of the principal. I imagine they're using the same the same design when instead of cars, they're actually solar panels. They're using the same,
the same financing.
economics.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the same principle because the financing company not only is getting your payments for 20 years or 25 years, they're picking up the federal tax credit of 30% that's available on all these systems and the accelerated depreciation. So it's like if you buy a home, you get to deduct your mortgage. Well, it's the same principle. Now,
They get to take that.
they get to take all that.
Wow.
As a homeowner, you may take the federal tax credit. You may not take the deductions on your own home. If I lease a system to your home, I can take the deductions because now it's a commercial investment. Or likewise, if you own rental property and you put it on your rental property, you may take those deductions and the federal tax credit. If you put it on your own home, you can only take the federal tax credit.
So, do you do like construction liens on the home? Or not you, but do companies out there? Is that part of this industry as well?
Would we file a lien on the home?
Yeah. Until that solar system, and maybe not you, but do other companies do that as well?
Yes.
So,
Now,
so
on the
you've
long-term
got
lease.
that as basically a second in line to pay off before you can sell your house or anything.
Yes,
so
and
that
that's
comes right out of your equity.
And that's the indirect downside, I think, of some of these long-term zero-down leases. They can actually stop the sale of a house. And they're usually 20 pages or so. And they do actually have the right to either be bought out or oppose who you're going to sell the house to. I've never heard of it happening, but
Right.
it's just very burdensome. And it's written more, I think, in our humble opinion, written more toward the investor and the solar company.
So if you can do solar and you can afford to do a whole home solar system, it sounds like the best idea, and I think we spoke about this before we came on, is to go out and if you can get a line of credit or take a loan from the bank and go direct, buy it yourself, you're going to reap the tax benefits, the credits and any of the federal credits as well as deductions, et cetera. And you're not going to have that other issue hanging over you.
We think that's the best. In general, you can make those payments out of your savings.
Okay.
So you take out a loan for a term that's much less than the life of the solar, get it paid off. In the meantime, you're taking tax credits. And tax credits is actually better than a deduction.
Right.
But you get your 30% tax credit. And of course, you have to have the tax appetite to take advantage of that. And then the only time we would recommend not would be a nonprofit.
Sure.
That can't take that has no tax appetite. Generally, we can finance entities like that and, in essence, share some of the tax benefits with that nonprofit. We're doing a nonprofit here in Arizona, Rainbow Acres, and they house mentally challenged adults. Really wonderful organization, facility up in Camp Verde.
Yep. I'm familiar with that.
And we're doing the same thing with them is we are. How it trickles down to them is our savings are inherently kind of written into our agreement with them.
Great. So what is it, and I don't know, do you have any other questions along those financing lines, Nick, before I change the subject?
No, it just sounds like it costs money.
Well, and that's a lot of it too. So it's not an investment to make lightly. And that's where I was going to ask I don't know if you can even come up with this kind of number, but what is the average maybe home in Arizona? What does it cost to put on a full home solar system out here?
Sure, no, that's a very good question. So let's say let's take a home that, two people living in the home. Maybe it's about 2,500 square feet. And it's in Arizona. So we have the air conditioning load. So that's going to take probably about a 7 kilowatt system. You really nowadays should not be paying too much more than $2.50, $3 at the most per watt. So 7,000 times 2 is 14, times 3 is 21. So you're going to be paying somewhere between $14,000 and $21,000. It can be dependent on type of roof, where your tie-in point is, where your solar modules are. There's all sorts of different things that can influence that. But if you're purchasing that system, you should be 14 to 17 to 18,000. $3 a watt would be considered high. Compare that to $8 to $9 a watt it used to cost as little as 2005 when we had solar panel shortages and everything was far more expensive. And then when the general meltdown hit in the economy, it really impacted solar to where we were paying $3 a watt for solar. So a 200 watt module might have cost us $600. Well, now it's 90 cents a watt.
Wow.
So that's not even costing us $200. So yeah, it's dramatic. So think about, let's say the example system was $20,000. That throws off a $6,000 federal tax grant or tax credit. So now you're down to $14,000, right? And that's really where where you consider your payback. A lot of Arizona can still get rebates. Some places can't. Some places, cannot. But that $7,000 system is throwing off close to 10,000 kilowatt hours per year. So you're going to be in a payback period of, somewhere 5 to 7 years.
How long do solar panels last?
They're warranted for 25 years, and nobody really knows. There's two things that cause things to wear out and cause operation and maintenance. It's heat and moving parts, and you have neither of those in solar panels. So because they're static, they just sit there, you have a natural degradation of about 0.5% a year. But other than that, NASA has panels that have been around for 60 years now, and they're still producing 75-80% of their original output.
Oh, wow. So I know I can't afford that. I've got 2 strikes against me. I can't afford that right now, and I'm in a rental home. So let me ask you:
what a loser!
Yeah, if I wanted to say put in some type of system that would do a few things for our home, and keeping in mind that it is a rental, what is there anything out there that you would recommend that I could put in that would do a few things? Run my aquaponics system, run my well, and maybe keep my refrigerator going and my home cool without having to go overboard or something is there any mobile solutions out there? Could I put this on a trailer or something that when I move, I can take it with me and easily rewire it into a new home and expand it? Is that even something possible?
Oh, it sure is. We've come up, in response to that, we've come up with what we think is a applicable or appropriate product. In fact, I think we're going to be raffling one off at the upcoming, show here next month.
Yep, on the, what is it? The 21st through 23rd at the Prepper Fest.
That's the Prepper Fest AZ. Where is it again, Nick?
It's at the fairgrounds, I believe.
This one's at the fairgrounds.
Mm-hmm. So we'll be in the booth. We'll be we'll be doing raffles. There's no purchase required. And then toward the end of the last day, raffle it off. What that is a single solar module, solar generator.
Okay.
And where this first came up with is we were thinking, well, it's pretty easy to come up with a year's supply to your supply of food. Then it occurred to me a lot of that food actually is dehydrated and takes water. Mm. It's very hard, if not impractical, for most of us to store that much water.
Right.
So I searched around and I found an air-to-water machine that was made to run on solar. Oh. So then we started marketing a product that, and it's on one of our websites, it is a solar-powered air-to-water. We did a solar-powered desalination, little things, mostly sold to sailboat owners and whatnot. Because now you have essentially an inexhaustible supply of water. In Arizona, it's not going to make a lot, but generally speaking, going back to the family of 2 example, it's going to make enough water. You might be dirty. Might not be enough water to wash, but certainly enough water, for survival and to mix into various survival type foods. All the way up to a large trailer mount solar generator we have with 12 solar modules that would run a small cabin. Or if you have a place, a bug out place or something like that, you can tow it behind your truck. There's large batteries so you can run a long time without sun. So we've come up with, for something like what you're talking about, is yes, a portable unit maybe consisting of 3-4 modules. It can run all those things you described, but maybe not simultaneously. So you can install switches as to what you want to do.
Right.
But what we do generally is we're going to install a green plug in your house, and that plug will supply you with power when all power is out. The idea came from working in hospitals and television studios, and they have the red plug.
Absolutely.
So that's where you go. So we got the ideas. Well, we'll have a green plug, and we encourage you to use that plug on a regular basis, coffee machine, toaster, something like that, to keep the battery cycled. And then when you really do need it in emergency, you know the plug, that you plug into. So we sell them with and without a plug, but we have, journeyman level electricians that will do the installation of the green plug if you want that. It pops out. You can take it camping with you, take it wherever you'd like to go. So that's kind of our answer to that. So it is saving you money on a daily basis because you're using it, but its real function is emergency power for a long time. Keep the where this also came from is the fear of having a bunch of children in the house who are accustomed to being on their devices all the time. And now you have power, now you can't charge them. What are you going to do? Are you actually going to sit and engage in family conversation with your children? Well, hopefully it would be nice if you did.
Yes.
But that strikes the fear of terror in a lot of parents is kids with, and in an emergency, we think it will help keep the children calm. If something is still normal. All heck might be breaking loose outside, but in their little home, they can still play there.
I can see that.
Yeah, I've got my DS Game Boy in my hand or whatever, and zombies are scratching at the windows. I don't care. I'm playing Mario Brothers.
That's right. You're killing them on your video game. So that was kind of, the concept. Some of it's tongue in cheek, but some of it's, quite real. And being able to stay knowing what's going on in the event of an emergency can be the difference between survival and not.
Absolutely. So that's where I went was emergency radios, the ham radio. We had done a whole podcast on ham radio.
Yes.
And needing to power that. That sounds like something that would be wonderful for that.
And they don't take a huge amount of power. A lot of those remote communication devices, there's a surprisingly small power supply even for the large towers that dot the United States or really all over the world. They're usually run by diesel generators, and we've quoted a few for backup or solar to run in concert with the generators.
I know here on South Mountain, I'm sure it is I know there's solar up there as well as generators that kick on to run, the TV stations and radio stations out here. So
there is a technology that allows solar to operate without batteries and without a grid, which is relatively new.
Oh, wow.
So it has to operate with a generator.
Right.
But the controller monitors the load. It knows what the generator can produce, and it knows what the solar can produce, and it bleeds in as much solar as possible.
So that's generators just sitting there idling until there's a heavy load?
Yes, or even it will kick on. But yeah, it'll either idle, because a lot of the generators at stations like that, their only function is to charge batteries.
Right.
And then everything's actually run off of batteries. So that the generators don't turn on whenever there's power requirement, but whenever the batteries drop below a certain point.
Yeah, I had a travel trailer at one point, and I had put as many solar panels on the top as I could, hoping to get the air conditioner to go. And I never got it to work. I couldn't get enough on there to start the AC. So I had to start my generator, kick the AC on, crank it really far down, and then turn off my generator. And then I was able to run it on solar, but I could never get it to start on solar. So I guess those things take a big load when we're talking about Arizona and air conditioning.
Big startup.
Right.
And
a bigger capacitor would work?
So that's exactly it. So we would retrofit probably some kind of a capacitance device to a soft start, just so that doesn't spike like that.
6,000 ferrets.
But yeah. But you won't spike.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to be careful too with capacitors as they hold that current in there. So they can, it's not something you want just sitting around for kids to touch. I mean, all power can be turned off and those things can shock you.
Yeah, just a quick story about capacitors. Apparently, my old man doesn't know that there are capacitors in an electric fence. So, he unhooks the battery and says, all right, go ahead and unhook the fence. Like, Dad, it's still hot. It's gonna shock me if I grab a hold of it. No, you'll be fine. Sure enough, grabbed a hold of it. And of course, that drained the power out of the capacitor, sent me just about flying and crying. And he's like, you're so full of crap. And he grabs a hold of the fence. See, it ain't shocking nothing. I just dumped it. So
yeah.
Same thing later that day. But anyway, continue.
Well, you're lucky you're was it a thrower, not a grabber? So when you get electrocuted, some people grab tight. And some people are throwing. So you must be a thrower.
Yeah.
Fortunately. But that's really the essence of, we've been doing traditional solar work now for going on 14 years, but about within the last 2 years, we think come up with some solutions to some of the challenges facing those of us that want to prepare for whatever it is, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 years, or somewhere in between, which is more likely, is that, we want to be ready. And
Right.
the most basic thing is energy.
Energy and water.
And water, exactly. And so we were trying to address those two issues, through renewable energy, because it could be the only thing that you can really depend on as a power source.
So on that note, you've said energy and water. Well, let's add one more to that, food. Chris and I have actually been talking about making the rabinet, or a cabinet for rabbits, a rabinet, solar powered, so that people anywhere could roll this thing out, deploy it, and grow 12 to 1,600 pounds of rabbits out of this 6 foot by 3 foot footprint, and do it without using any power source other than the panels that are on it. It's still being prototyped, but we should have something by the 8th of March, hopefully.
I'll be a test bunny.
Yeah, that's our target. We'd like to display it at the Spring Festival out by Florence, the Spring Festival for the 2 large developments out there.
Okay, and that's
housing development.
Is it Anthem?
Anthem.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Anthem in Florence, right?
Anthem in Florence and it's one of the few times that their beautiful parks are open to us folks that don't live in Anthem.
Oh,
and
that's so considerate of them.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I actually walked it today, and they're going to be our big trailer is going to power up the sound stage.
Oh, wow.
And then we're going to also raffle off a single panel trailer or solar generator. And so, yeah, we'd like to show the solar powered rabbit dwelling facility.
That's a rabinet.
Rabbit.
And you'll also be out in the March at the fairgrounds. Are you going to have more out there than just the solar panel generator? At least some information for people?
Oh, yes. Lots of information. I'll be out there. The whole, pretty much the whole team will be out there. We consider that a pretty big event.
Yeah. Do you run into a lot of preppers doing what you do with solar? Or do you find kind of a mix of what's the demographic of people looking?
I find it to be a mix, and I found that the event in Mesa, where you and I had met last year, I looked very carefully at what was being sold in the solar marketplace and how it was being packaged and whatnot. And I found it to be well built, but rather archaic in the design, limited into what it can do, and really, really expensive. So what it told me is there were probably, based on the pricing, it looked like there were 3 or 4 parties between the manufacturer and the guy trying to sell it to me. So, because we were seeing almost $1,000 for a solar that didn't even include the panels. They said, well, here, you can hook the panels up here, but here's our, our batteries and our outlet and our charge controller and that kind of thing. And I know it was maybe $150 to $250 worth of components. So it kind of tells you there's a lot of people in between. So what we wanted to do was kind of cut everybody out, not so much to cut everybody out, but just to give better value to the end user and get it more in the hands of the end user. So I'm seeing, as far as demographics go, everybody, apartment dwellers, upscale homeowners. We've actually worked with some companies that build safe houses, or the panic rooms.
The panic rooms.
And it's like, well, what good does a panic room do if they can just snip your power, just shut it off, utility power, and then you're done. So we see it at that level. And then, like most of us, it's just, hey, if there's a power outage, I want to be able to plug my computer in and charge it, and maybe a light bulb, and, maybe make some coffee in the morning, life's little luxuries that we take for granted.
Coffee is one of those things that I would be really grumpy without. So I can see that.
Can't contemplate life without it.
No, not. Yeah.
But that's really the fundamentals of designing the emergency power system for those of us that are preparing is, what do you really need? What do you really, really, really need? Most of the country, we don't need air conditioning. So we take that out of the equation. I think, as we were talking before, is in Arizona, you need to at least have maybe one small room. And we were joking, well, maybe that's the bathroom and the whole family, sleeps in the bathroom. But it's not too far from the truth. And then see, then a lot of times you think of one thing that causes you to think of another thing. So you have to have that air conditioner on hand.
Right.
Part of our research for the rabbitry was finding the lowest consuming air conditioner out there. We came across, which I kind of thought we would, is industrial air conditioners that are made maybe just to cool the housing of a 5 horsepower motor that was in an oil refinery where it might be 110 degrees ambient, or just as an example.
Right.
So designing only what you need, but then thinking beyond that. So, what's the smallest room in the house? It needs to be ready to go. The company that we're buying the air-to-water machine told me a lot of the people that are buying their air-to-water machine are just sticking them in a closet, not testing them, not running them, and you hope when you plug them in that things will work.
Yeah.
Well,
that's not the situation.
Not all of ours have. We've plugged them in and we've had problems.
Right.
And so we kind of think opposite of that.
Just like a car sitting in the driveway will deteriorate just as fast as you using it half the time, just because things go bad on them just sitting.
And in some cases, some of the parts like gaskets and stuff will actually deteriorate faster. So it's an all-inclusive look, of energy. It doesn't really do a lot of good if you have this energy source, but let's say you didn't have the right kind of outlet, or okay, great, you could run a small air conditioner, but I never got around to buying that air conditioner. Well, now in an emergency, it's too late. So it's more of, yes, it's a products thing, but it's also almost there's a consultancy element to what we do, really in all aspects of solar. Certainly in large commercial, but even we feel it's important to ask the probing questions. If a customer says, hey, we just want your generator, we don't want to answer any of your questions, that's fine.
So speaking of questions, what is your advice to somebody like me who knows nothing about solar and say, I want to go out and buy some? What questions do I need to ask? What should I put in the back of my head? Maybe something that your customers don't ask you until they're done with the project. What's that education?
Usually the question that comes after the fact is maintenance. What do I have to do to maintain these things? And again, going back to no heat, no moving parts, just keep the panels clean. I would, if you can endure it, have 2 or 3 companies come out, give you their spiel, let them tell you whatever they want, and in doing that, you'll become educated. But then think carefully about your particular case. Why do you want solar?
And then call Chris Fry.
Yeah, and then after that, call us.
Yeah.
After you're done with wasting your time, then call us. No, there's certainly a lot of great companies out there, and a lot of us that have been in the business for decades. I would look carefully at the companies that, last year they were window companies and now they're solar companies.
Right.
Or last year they were roofing companies and now they're solar companies. That's what I would look carefully at.
And that's kind of, I've talked to a few different companies like that are, we used to put fences in. Well, now we're solar guys because that's where the market went. And it just doesn't really give you the good vibe. I was going to ask a question and completely forgot it. So
while you're thinking, I'll finish your question up. So, because I'm with you, I want the power if the power goes down. I want to have that dependable power. So think carefully about what it is you need and what you want versus what you need. Basically, you have 2 columns, and we kind of reverse design on what you really need. Then, if there's room left over, then you can
start
look
putting in what you want.
Because I'm curious to come up with what is the ideal air conditioner to include in this package of, when there's no more power kind of scenario. So what and Nick, you and I scoured every commercially available air conditioner, and I think I found a 900 BTU was about the smallest. Mm-hmm. So that would do comfortably, probably a room about the size of the studios here, and it would be comfortable. And that's basically where the family stays, in the extreme heat.
Right.
So sleep outside.
Example, at my house, again, there's a few things I need to do. I run evaporative cooling for my greenhouse during the summertime out here. So that's a must because that's part of my food supply. Freezer is a must because that's where all my meat is stored and I don't can it. And we just haven't done that yet. So to me, that's a need, and a well to run is the other thing. So that's kind of, when I look at my needs categories, that's where I put it in. Nick, I know you probably have something a little different. You've got your rabbits. What else, is important to you and your wife?
Well, that's, I know my wife's going to want a curling iron because heaven forbid the world go to crap and her not look good. But, no, I have a pretty large setup for rabbits and there's definitely some roof space that they, the building that they have provides. And, should probably load that whole thing full of panels and have it run the swamp cooler for one and then I've the backup AC unit. I remember what I was going to ask. I actually do a lot of driving around, during the day and one of my downfalls is I'm away from my house to eat. And so I end up eating garbage that, I buy a Jack in the Box or something. What I'd like to do is put a refrigerator in my truck. And I've got a full-size truck. I'm going to get a tonneau cover for the back. Is it possible to run a small fridge off of solar panels that are on a tonneau cover for the bed of a truck?
Yeah, it would be. And we've looked at this, and essentially you're going to use the volume of a small ice chest. You're not going to have a little, even one of those little ones you might see in a hotel room or something. You're going to have a small ice chest, and the solar panel will be able to keep it, probably 10 to 15 degrees below ambient at all times. Maybe 20 degrees, because it's a small area. So you're not going to keep ice melted in there. I mean, ice would last a little longer. Mm-hmm. But, yes, all that. Golf courses. We're working with a country club and we're going to do a couple beta tests. Say, let's mount a solar panel on these particular golf carts and not charge them and see if they continue to run.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of.
I need a new roof for my electric golf cart. That would be a good idea.
There you go. I mean, there's so many applications to implement, solar into consumer goods. We're working on a beach chair that has a solar top. It's a soft solar, and then there's a little thing over your top that has a little USB port on it.
So you're charging your device and sitting on the beach.
You're sitting there, on the beach playing with your device, but keeping it charged the whole time, or keeping your phones charged the whole time. I was at the airport not too long ago, here in Arizona, in fact, and I saw this young man with a skateboard. And I said, do you think it would be cool if you had a little USB port on the side of your board, and obviously not when you're riding it, but, with a small solar, flexible solar panel, amorphous type, embedded into the skateboard, and then a little USB port. He thought about, well, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I'd like that. So there's all sorts of these that what we're trying to do, but for so long this industry has just been catching up with itself. Homeowners want solar, business owners want solar, so we've been out there installing solar. I think we're going to see over the next couple of years, a company like ourselves really introducing a lot of consumer goods, if you will, that have solar. There's already backpacks out there with little USB ports, built-in solar modules in them, so you can keep your device charged.
Well, there's another question. You've been in this industry now for 14 years. Mm-hmm. What kind of technological advances have you seen? And I'm going to ask that, but then ask this one as well. When I first considered solar was back around the year 2000, 2003, in that range. And the feedback I was getting is it takes more energy to make the panels than what they really put out. And that kind of turned me off of it, because it seemed like the cost to transfer that energy from sun to electricity in the wall outlet wasn't efficient enough. And they were saying somewhere around 10% of the energy hitting the panel was all that was being converted into electricity. So I don't know where we're at now. I mean, what have you seen as far as efficiency goes?
Now a typical solar panel will now put maybe 15 to 17% efficiency. So we more or less kind of doubled the efficiency. The other thing we've done as a industry is what today is a 300 watt panel is the same size as maybe what a 175 watt panel was 7-8 years ago. So they figured out how to get more wattage in a smaller area, but they've about hit the max now. Now, a 400 watt panel is 33% larger approximately than a 300 watt panel because it's just simply growing with the output. So as far as advances, when something is as fundamental as solar technology, converting sunlight between certain frequencies into electricity, that's so fundamental, you can't really change it. You can't improve on something that's happening, and you're not doing anything to make that happen.
Right.
You're slicing silica, you're putting it there, it's exciting some electrons. That's it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can try to make it run cooler, because the hotter it is, the less PV power you put out, all else being equal. So on a 118 degree day, it's going to put out a lot less power than like today. Like today's almost a perfect solar day. If it were sunny out, cool days in the winter, perfect. A 200 watt panel might put out 230 watts just because it's such ideal condition. So there's not a lot of advances, particularly for the home and small commercial, what we call DG, distributed generation. For utility scale, there is a concentrated solar technology, and it's really not PV based. It's basically you have a bunch of parabolic shaped collectors, and you have a fluid flowing through those collectors. So the sun hits it and actually causes that fluid to boil, and then you spin turbines, just like a traditional
Weren't
power.
they building something really big like that out here? Is that still is that still going on?
I think it's still ongoing. We're looking at a 100-acre site in out by Florence.
That's a lot of glass. Holy cow.
It's a lot of glass. Per square foot or per unit area, concentrated solar will do 3 times the output of PV. I like it because I've always, what's happened in California and also in Arizona is, interestingly enough, you've had the hardcore environmentalists out there opposing solar projects because, well, the shade is going to shade parts of the desert that hasn't seen shade in millennia. We're going to use flora, we're going to lose flora, we're going to lose cactus, we're going to lose insects, reptiles.
I'm pretty sure that those folks will never be happy with anything we ever do. I'm a heartless bunny murderer, okay?
Yes, you are. Yes.
I run into this a lot, and there's just no happiness to be found in those types of people. I'll just go ahead and say that right now. That is strictly the opinion of me, Nick Klein.
That's right.
Not of We Grow
Disclaimer.
Ours.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot to be said, for exactly that. Hey, if you don't like this, what are you going to like? Okay, we'll go out and burn some more fossil fuel, or we'll build a nuke plant. On the other hand, if you can produce the same amount of power and do it on a third less desert area, it's probably good policy.
Well, there you go.
And you're looking at 100 acres.
100 acres. The owner is not going to use all 100 acres, but yes, it's 100 acres. We'll probably use about 70. So as a general rule of thumb, traditional solar, you're going to get 1 megawatt on every 4 acres. So call it 80 acres, so we can get about 20 megawatts on that. We can get 60 megawatts on that same plot of land. And with concentrated solar, it's one of the few technologies that allows you to actually store the energy. And it does that by actually heating up molten metals, basically, sodium, as in sodium chloride or magnesium. So they're stored in heavily insulated, usually underground tanks, and you put the day's heat in there, and then you bring that heat back out. It boils the heat transfer media and then spins the turbine. Wow. If you want to do it at night. So because you were asking about advances.
Yeah,
and PV, not a lot.
No, that's what does PV stand for?
Photovoltaic.
Photovoltaic.
So making exciting electrons and making electricity that way in the pure technology. And again, just like, this is only my opinion, I don't think there's going to be any huge advances. They're looking at different substrates instead of silica. They like to use, there's some nickel based and arsenic based and other.
Oh, that sounds fun. Arsenic,
yeah, I know. Yeah,
let's have that real close to my kids.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they go play on the solar panels, kids. So there's nothing that's going to break it all. The Bloom box. The whole concept of the fuel cell. It's not. I'm quite familiar with them and how they work, and they're not, and now you're still consuming natural gas, so it's not truly renewable energy. But the technologies like the concentrated solar, I think, are up and coming. But it's not a PV technology. So as far as advances in that go, I think the technology is what it is, because it's something that happens and we're just standing back and watching it. So what can you do? It's like, well, can you make lightning appear or not appear, something, or can you make it rain or not? Well, you really can't.
So is the time to buy the solar systems now? Is it 2 years ago, or is it 2 years from now?
I would answer that with a maybe, because it's like, well, why do you want to buy solar? So is it for purposes beyond monetary? Do you want to protect your family? Then sure, it's the time, because what else can you do? You can store an awful lot of gasoline, or you can have a propane supply. But what if you lose municipal gas supply and electricity and water all at the same time? And that's what we're geared toward. That's our philosophy. That's where our products are geared toward. The design is you lose everything. You have no help from the outside at all. So you have to be self-sustaining. We do recommend having a small generator. Most of all the inverters today will take an input from a generator. If the solar's not charging your batteries enough, the generator will turn on. Gotcha. So maybe if there's only emergency conditions for, a few months and you got propane on hand, or you lose electricity but you don't lose gas, then you can keep that going.
And you're still not using anywhere close to what you would be otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah. And now, is it the right time to buy for your house? I would say maybe. If you have a tax appetite, if you can take all the goodies that come along with it, all the incentives, is the word I was thinking of, then sure, it's a good time. We're skipping along the bottom of pricing. I think that about a year ago, pricing of solar modules hit rock bottom, about 60 cents a watt. Now it's back to 70, 80, 90 cents a watt, depending, of course, on how many you buy and whatnot. So I think it's a great time. We're doing installation on our house, actually, out by Florence. We haven't had it for very long, so it doesn't have solar on it.
Right.
Well, we've had it, but it's just been a kind of a come out vacation kind of place. But now that we moved out.
This guy vacations to Florence, Arizona. Wow. No offense. I'm just kidding, man.
I live in Southern California. Anywhere's a vacation, coming from there.
There you go.
So, Ray, I appreciate all the time. How do I know we're going to have people asking, how do we get a hold of you and buy from you? So tell me, what's your contact info?
Our toll-free number is 1-800-854-9110. You can reach our website is very kind of basic, alternativeenergyinc.com. You can email me direct at it's long but easy, CFrye, so as in C as in Chris, FRYE at alternativeenergyinc.com.
Okay.
My office has a tether on me, so if I'm out and about, they call my cell phone and put the call through. So we should always be available. And that's actually, we do pride ourselves with having qualified individuals to actually answer questions. I'll tell you, the market has changed substantially. We used to have to make 3 or 4 visits to a home to close a sale. Now, if we have an address, we look at the home, on Google Maps, and we can pretty much price the whole thing out.
So what's your kind of service area? I know we've got listeners in California, Arizona, Utah, well, across the country, UK, the whole thing. So,
well, as Nick knows, we actually have an office in the Middle East. We've
even got listeners there.
Yeah, that's good. If you have them in Beirut, Lebanon, then we're probably going to open another office in Abu Dhabi. But right now, just for various reasons, we're in Beirut, Lebanon. I was actually there last month.
They get a little sun there, don't they?
They have a lot of sun. Yes. Yeah. And, a few political things going on there, but a really robust business environment. And I enjoy doing business there. Very gracious, bunch of business people there. We have an office in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And certainly in Florence. We've opened our newest office. And then in Sonoma County, Northern California, which is actually where I started the company.
So it's not limited to the Arizona here. So
absolutely not. We'll go anywhere, and we I've been doing work in Arizona, since the late 80s. Even I cleaned up a lot of contaminated soil and groundwater here in Arizona. It is a very natural place for us to do solar. So we have had some really, good breaks in Arizona business-wise in solar, and we hope the March 8th Spring Festival will be a real big kickoff. We're really focusing those two communities.
And tell us again, how do we find out more about that? Do you know? They're
on the website in the community. If you Google in.
And this is the Florence Anthem?
The anthem, yeah.
Okay, so I will do that, and I will put that in our show notes so people can find you there as well.
But it's March 8th. There's 2 bands. There's a beer garden.
I'm going already.
So yeah, there's all sorts of compelling reasons to
beer garden. That did it.
We're going to be a special sponsor of the beer gardens and have some mugs with our name on it and stuff like that. And then again, we'll raffle off.
Get lit up with solar.
Yeah.
I love it.
We had more fun. We've done several shotgun golf tournaments. And we bring our big trailer out there, and we run blenders, and we have solar margaritas.
Love it.
Oh, wow.
So they'll stick us out on a fairway.
Alcohol and weaponry. Why not? Okay.
So, no, we've had a lot of fun with it. We've had a lot of fun over the years. And people like solar. That's why I kind of wanted to get out of toxic, because no matter how much they like you, they don't want you there. They wish they didn't have a problem that they had to call you with. Whereas solar is very welcoming. I've been invited back to people's homes from time to time, and because they're just so grateful.
I know my brother-in-law and my sister are actively looking at solar right now. So I'm glad we had you on, because they've been asking me for information about it, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast. So,
well, in the last year, we've done work for CBS Television, for Trader Joe's, a couple years before that, Traditional Medicinals. But we value very much the residential. If CBS might spend $1 million, a homeowner might spend $10,000, but we know that $10,000 is more important to them than that $1 million is to the CBSs of the world.
Right.
We very much appreciate the business we did with CBS, but every dollar is very important to that individual that's spending it. So
Right.
no, we very much welcome the residential, and we try to bring the same level of professionalism and attention to detail to the home as a commercial.
It's good to hear.
So
That's real good to hear.
we certainly try.
Well, Chris, it's an honor to have you on here today. I appreciate your time, and we'll get all the info on here to get back with you, or to get in contact with you and get your services out there.
Great. Well, I thank you for this opportunity, and I applaud what you're doing with the rabbit houses, and look forward to the event in March, and where we'll raffle off a little generator.
Heck yeah. That'll be at the Prepper Fest. I think you look up prepperfest.com. Okay, yeah. I don't remember.
WeGrowOurs.com.
WeGrowOurs.com. That's the important one.
Show notes and blog.
Okay.
All of our show notes are on there. So, Chris, once again, thank you.
That was awesome having Chris Fry here in studio.
Yeah, he did I didn't know. I didn't know solar could be so fascinating.
Yeah, I'm really excited about when he started talking about the molten metals, that they're actually heating up a substance and storing it in the ground to use the heat from that during the night.
Right.
That is awesome, because I've always, that's one of my main complaints with alternative energies. There's no real way to store it. For example,
batteries.
Yeah, but batteries suck.
Yeah. Well,
don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a great technology, but there's so much loss. They're not efficient. I mean, the most efficient ones that they've come out with are too expensive to build.
Right.
And when I look at something like heat transfer like that, that is a battery that will never wear out.
Right. Right. Fascinating stuff. I'd love the innovation again.
Oh, yeah.
I said that at the beginning too. I think the innovation that Chris is doing in the industry, and gearing toward a lot of our audience, the preppers and the people out there that want to live on a self-sustainable life, whether they be preppers or homesteaders or urban farmers, whatever. That's right.
Even if you're in the middle of town and you want to lower your electricity bill and you want to be less dependent on other people, that's the thing, is you could be either side of the political spectrum.
Right.
Personal independence on power and on food. Both those things, they're worthy goals. I don't care which way you believe, which way you vote. If you can control your consumption and actually create instead of consume, you contribute to society better, or you can live on your own better.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah. So what else we got this week? I mean, the interview was quite a bit, so we're not going to do a whole lot of other topics this week. I think solar was enough, a lot to take in on that one.
Yeah,
so,
might have to listen to this one twice.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm going to have all the links up on our show notes for Chris's website, how you can get a hold of him, his company. I'm going to put some information on the Anthem, Florence Anthem fair that's coming up. There's going to be a beer garden, so I'm hoping to go to that. It's a long drive. I live near the other Anthem. So yeah, for you, it's not too bad.
No, it's still 45 minutes for me, and
Wow.
I'm 45 miles from him, so yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have all those show links up. I want to remind our listeners too, prepperbroadcasting.com. Guys, go check it out. We want to give them as much support. They are picking our show up, and I think Sunday we're going to be on one of their shows. I think it's going to be a live show Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern.
And for those of you that heard last week that we were going to be on live last week, that didn't exactly happen. The show host got sick.
Yeah, and we just hope she's feeling better.
Yep.
So tune in again. There's going to be a live number you can call and interact with everybody. We're really excited about that. I think we mentioned before, a little nervous about it, but we'll get through it. All right.
How about the plug of the week?
Plug of the week. All right. So I had to take my aunt and uncle to Vegas. I think it sounds like torture, doesn't it? They flew into Phoenix, had a birthday party that they had to go to in Vegas. So I got elected to drive them out there, my wife and I, and I should plug Priceline. I'm not gonna because their stock is already high enough. They don't need a plug from us. But I got a smoking deal on a hotel out there, like $20 for the night. 4-star, the whole thing. So try that out.
Nice.
It was pretty neat because we went out there and I had no intention of this, but I
Visited the Bunny Ranch?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
My wife and I went to Vegas.
I don't know. She might be a little open to things.
Okay, she's going to hit you. That's what she's open to next time you see her. And she does listen to these. Just remember that. Anyway.
Sorry, Angie.
The plug of the week is a place called Vapor Rage. So I am a smoker. And I was a smoker.
Oh, there you go. Past
I
tense.
stopped.
Past tense.
doing
That's
it.
commitment, bro.
On Friday when I got to Vegas, we went to Vapor Rage. It's vapor-rage.com. And I learned about vaping, this new thing happening. I'm not saying you should go out if you're not a smoker and buy one of these things, but it's pretty cool if you are a smoker. They got all these cool flavors. I stopped by a couple of vapor shops here in Phoenix. There's one down at Scottsdale and Shea. They're all over the place. They're popping up. It's kind of a new thing, but it's not a thing to me. It's something to help me quit smoking. And so far, I really like it. You get all these different flavors and stuff. And if it wasn't for these guys educating me about it, I wouldn't have done it. The investment isn't too much to get into this thing. And if you consider what you're paying on cigarettes, it's nothing.
What did your little electro hookah cost you?
It depends on the models you get. Basically a starter kit, you're going to spend anywhere from $30 to $100.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
And you got to add flavors. You got to do all this.
That's like a month's worth of cigarettes, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I bought these tanks and I spent more money on it than I should have, but that's not the point because it's going to save me money in healthcare costs in the long run.
There you go. It's going to save your life, man. How much is life?
If you guys are anywhere near Vegas, stop by Vapor Rage. They're online. They sell this stuff. They make their own juice, which is the tobacco. It's the nicotine flavored substance that goes in these e-cigarettes. I've been trying for months for these like Mark 10s, which did a test market here. These, the blue cigarettes. Uh-huh. You can buy them at the Circle K's, 7-Elevens, and they're the disposables. I can't stand them.
Yeah.
This thing I absolutely love. It feels a lot more like smoking. I'm going to take my sister down to a local one this week, but these guys educated me, so they deserve the plug of the week. And I want to send out a sincere thank you to them for spending an hour with me, just teaching me about this, what not to do as much as what to do. I was going to buy something different. The guy's actually a lot more expensive. He says, no, you don't want to do that. You don't need to do that.
Wow.
And sat down with me, the owner of the company. So, just, props to them. And if you are a smoker, I know what it's like to quit. Give it a shot. It's not going to hurt anything. I recommend it.
There
If
you
you're
go.
a kid, don't start.
Yeah, don't smoke. That's just, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the plug of the week. What else do we got? Any follow-ups from last week?
I got some positive feedback from Porkopolis. They were very thankful for the plug of the week.
I saw that. I was impressed. I didn't know they had other locations as well.
Neither did I.
Yeah, I looked up their website and I realized that they have other locations. So yeah, guys, we appreciate the feedback on that. You got some feedback on Facebook too, didn't you, Nick?
Oh, yeah.
Or I guess that was us.
Yeah, well, it seems that there was a listener that didn't appreciate our political views. And without sounding like I don't care, I'm just going to go ahead and say I don't care. No, just kidding. We don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time, I'm not going to roll over either. I see the crap that's happening in our world, and I do not approve. I'm very critical of our leaders, as I don't see them as our leaders so much as our servants. We put them in office. We pay their bills. We ask them to represent us. When they don't do that, we can their ass. So
Yeah.
so
I think what it came down to was we had some feedback, and it wasn't just one listener. We've had a couple that have said, no politics. Well, that's part of the show.
yeah.
I do my best to put in the show notes when we talk about politics.
Yep.
So my answer to that is change the channel, fast forward through. We try to give you guys as much information as we can, but both Nick and I are passionate about politics, planting, and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to the show intro, we disclose that up front. We don't ask you all to agree with us. We don't expect you to agree with us. We love debate. We love you guys to tell us what you think.
Good, healthy, friendly debate.
Yes.
Like no name calling. That's just childish.
Yeah. You guys think we're wrong? Feedback on it. We'd love to hear it. We don't mind that stuff. But we're not going to stop talking about it. I will do my best to put it in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to make everybody a part of that conversation. And if you guys have any political things, don't be afraid to throw them in at us and say, hey, you guys are wrong about this. We'll acknowledge that if we've misspoken, we will certainly do that. But we are
definitely
passionate.
In fact, I want to say that when there is legislation that supports local farming and non-GMOs and that type of effort, I don't care who wrote it. I don't care what side of the aisle it's on. As long as it helps that cause, we will give it props.
Absolutely. No matter what state it's in too.
Food is the binder, food is the great, it's the reason left and right can come together, because I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, you're eating,
Right. So with that said, let's wegrowers.com /ask us. You guys can go record your questions. You can contact us on I think the About Us or Speaking page. You do it right there on the Ask Us. You can find us on Facebook, facebook.com /wegrowers, Twitter @wegrowers. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We are now on Prepper Broadcasting.
We're popular.
There is some, we've got listeners in most of the country in the U.S. at this point. We've got listeners from the UK. We've got listeners from all over the globe. So
I think Australia now too, right?
Yeah, I was looking at the list, and people are listening, and what we're trying to do is reach them and teach them.
Yeah, buddy.
So we don't expect you guys to agree with our politics all the time. And it's okay if you don't, you're not going to offend us.
Awesome.
Awesome. I'm looking at the, statistics list. I want to look at the countries. So we've got United States, Canada, UK, Mexico, Germany, Australia, Denmark, Saudi Arabia, Jamaica, Switzerland, France, Portugal, Spain, Bermuda, Costa Rica, and Poland.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Majority of our audience is in the U.S., California, Texas, Nevada, and Arizona is number one. So to everybody out there who's downloaded, who's listened, you guys rock. Thank you so much for the support and for tuning in. We're really excited. Come meet us at the Prepper Expo,
That's right.
AZ Prepper Fest.
azprepperfest.com, I think, is his website.
Yep.
And it's going to be the 21st through the 23rd at the Arizona State Fairgrounds.
And that's gonna be a great venue.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to
It's
that.
huge.
Also, remember, guys, we've got a homesteading conference coming up April
5th
5th and 6th.
That's right.
8 classes
Mm-hmm.
for a fee that really should be 10 times what it is for these classes. We're going to have Justin Roner out there.
That's right.
We're going to have, who else? You are going to be
got
teaching
Justin
rabbits.
Roner,
I'm going to be out there teaching
Donna
aquaponics.
Bruce.
Donna Bruce is going to be doing
Scott
composting.
Yarge.
Yeah. Scott has, we've gotten a lot of feedback on Scott too. Going to have him back on the show.
That's right.
Talk more about quails and some of the other things he's doing. I want to get into some of his stuff with his bartering and what he's doing with that. So we hope to have Scott out again real soon. We've got some great shows coming up. Guys, go over to Prepper Broadcasting and support us there. Support them. You're going to see some great shows over there, as well. So with that said, adieu.
Au revoir. All of a sudden we're French.
I don't know.
Really?
Thank you for tuning in to the We Grow Our show once again.
Are we recording now?
Yeah, we are now. I
Okay.
just pushed the button.
We just met you, and this is crazy, but here's our number.
Okay.
So call me. Maybe.
Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah. You can talk, Nick.
I'm just looking at a computer screen. Oh, professional. We were doing it wrong.
It's the joy of editing.
Es que no sabes hablar español.
All right, I should probably edit that. Huh?
No,
Because I don't know what you said.
I said it's because you don't speak Spanish.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say
I
anything
was supposed to
offensive.
trust him.